Hello everyone, my name is Madison Hagler and welcome to another dorm room review video. In this review I will be taking a look at Isolation by Michael Murray. So let's get right into this. First of all, I want to talk about the look of this. It sort of looks like a beautiful leather. It's not, but it doesn't look like leather. Then it has this beautiful embossed metallic front with this beautiful image, and then it says "Just Think" in Isolation by Michael Murray. It also has that same embossed metallic look on the spine. And let's just get right into it. It's loaded with some illustrations which really help you to sort of figure out everything. It's got some shaded sections to help with clarity. It's a really clear and easy to understand book. It's written very well. I know that Michael struggled with trying to figure out what would be the best method to teach this system, since it is sort of a collection of different techniques and tools to put in your toolbox. So I know Michael had some trouble with that, but he did it beautifully in this book. You would never know that he struggled because everything is explained very, very clearly. Let me just talk a little bit about what you get. The book opens up with some basic stuff, some memory tips for how to do some memory work, which there's not much memory work in this at all, but for the little memory work there is, Michael tells you some tips about it in the beginning. He then teaches the streamlined master system, the complete master system, the palm reading system, the hybrid system, the bonus hands-free hybrid system, and then there's a whole chapter on determining the color of the card, a whole chapter determining the suit of the card, a whole chapter on how to restrict the values, which you don't have to do, but just as an option to make your job a little easier. Some filtering techniques, some more filtering techniques, how to get the most out of a revelation of the card, and then just considerations and combination of techniques where he just tells you may want to try combining this with this, or you can combine this and that. But really you can kind of do that for this whole thing by yourself, which is one thing that's really neat about this book. You then get into the bonus tools, because this book does come with some bonus tools right here. It's some cards that have the vowels printed on them. You don't have to use them. This can be done totally impromptu, and I've been doing it totally impromptu. But if you want to, you can use these vowel cards, which gives you a huge advantage. Cuts down on some of the work that you have to do if you do it promptless. You then get into something that's called the A-Can that isn't, which is something like an A-Can, but it's not quite. It's very interesting. It's a really cool idea. A thought in hand, which is a combination of a witch hand routine also with the thought of card revelation. Really great. And then a thought of card and wallet, and you actually get all the gimmicks necessary to do the thought of card and wallet. So the spectator's thought of card is in your wallet. It doesn't get much simpler than that. And then he also has a polite request to all creators, and then it ends with a section where you can write some notes down. And I always like a book that gives you sections to write your thoughts and your different ideas down. So that is just the basic contents of Isolation. Now let me get into the review. So what do I think of Isolation? I think it's the best book of 2018. I don't think there's going to be a book that tops it. It's by far the best book of thought of card revelation that there has ever been and probably ever will be. The only person I can see topping this thought of card revelation is Michael Murray himself. And he's kind of doing this continually on Facebook. Luckily, there's a Facebook group for Isolation, and Michael is sharing his new ideas and new developments on that group for free. And there have been some incredible ideas shared in that group. Michael has come up with some really nice touches which take it an extra mile. I highly suggest getting onto the Facebook group if you have Isolation. You'll learn a lot of really cool stuff there. So what is Isolation? I know that you kind of heard about it, you've heard me talk a little bit about it, but okay, Isolation is a book full of different techniques. 5 systems are taught, 5 full systems are taught for how to know what card someone is thinking of. So you have 5 full systems taught, but then there's a whole bunch of techniques for the color and the suit that you can use independently with this routine. You can sort of mix and mingle. Right now in my head I have 4 different techniques that I use to know the suit of someone's card. So what's kind of cool about Isolation is once you learn the whole book and you kind of read through it all and you start to understand the concepts, you can really almost jazz in performance. And you're not jazzing making it up on the spot, but you're jazzing with how you use the combination, how you use the tools, how you combine them in that particular performance, and I really enjoy that. Now you could just memorize a system and do that one system for the rest of your life. You could absolutely do that, but I find a little joy in saying, okay, how do I feel like doing it this time? Oh, I'm going to do it this way, and the next time I'll do it that way. It's just kind of fun for me. So Isolation totally lets you do that with that sort of jazzmentalism feel. Now, one thing I will tell you, there is memory work with this, but Here's what I suggest. If you have isolation and if you are going to pick it up, I suggest you learn the first system. That's what Michael suggests in the book. He says, learn this first system. It's the streamlined system. It's the easiest system that's in the book. And once you learn that system, the other systems will come a lot easier. But I recommend that you don't just memorize what you're asking. Don't just memorize the process, but instead kind of go deeper into it and figure out why he's asking the things he is and why he does the things he does, why he's looking for the things he's looking for. If you figure out the why behind it, then all the other systems will make sense and fall right into place. I know for me personally, by the time I finished reading the book, I knew the systems and I knew the options, and I never had to memorize them, because whenever I read through it, I took my time, especially with the palm reading system. The palm reading system is my favorite system. I love the palm reading system. With that system, whenever you get the spectator to, they're imagining things in their palm, it can be confusing at first, and I know some people I've seen already on the Facebook group, a lot of people are confused about it. But instead of being confused, if you'll just sit down and understand why it works and understand the why behind the how, you won't have to memorize a thing. It'll just start making sense, and you'll say, oh yeah, okay, if it's that, it must be this and that and that. And the synapses will start to fire without you even consciously having to work towards it. So I highly recommend you do that. Learn the why behind the how. Don't just regurgitate what the book tells you, but instead learn it, figure it out, understand it, and then everything will happen easily and you won't have to work nearly as hard. So I definitely recommend that. So yeah, it's one of the best books. I think it's going to be the best book of 2018. It is incredible. It's the best thought of card revelation. And I will say too that it is 100%, and I hesitate to say that just because you're going to have those times when you have a spectator that doesn't follow directions, or they're just really bad at understanding what you're asking them to do. But as long as you have a spectator who follows your directions and who wants it to succeed, this will be a success. And it's not psychological. It's not a technique, like COG was really popular for a while. It's not a technique like that where where it's purely psychological, and yes, it usually works, but sometimes it doesn't. It's not like that. This is a technique that works 100% of the time. All of the systems in this book work 100% of the time. There are some techniques, because again it is sort of a toolbox, some of the techniques in the tools, in the toolbox, may be less 100%, they're 98%, and if you're scared about that 2% not working, don't use that particular part of the system. Change that part of the system out for one of the other parts of the other systems, and you'll have your own system that you like and feel comfortable with. That's something that I've seen some people kind of complaining about with this book online, is they've been saying, I don't believe this is 100%. And it's like, okay, well, that part may not be, but this book literally gives you so many options for different things you can plug into that one part. And I'll just say it. They were worried about getting the suit right. They were saying, I don't think this suit is going to work 100% of the time. You're saying that the spectator is going to do something and they may not. Okay, literally that's one system. That's the first system taught in the book. If you'll go any further past that first system, you'll learn that there are a bunch of other techniques in the book that you can use in place of that one part of that one system that you don't like. And I feel the same way. I actually have never used the first system that's taught in the book. I immediately replaced it with some of the systems taught later in the book because I just thought it suited me better, and I didn't want to have to worry, and I didn't want to have to take some of the cons that were in the first one to make it as easy as it could be. So, I kind of made my own little system out of what is given in the book. You learn so much in here that you can really, I don't know how you could be disappointed. Even if you don't do this as a thought of card revelation, and I know that's kind of weird to say because it's a book on thought of card revelation, but really, because you're getting a whole book of propless techniques to learn all of these different aspects, you can really apply these tools in other propless tricks. And I know some people are already trying to do that with Isabella Star 3 and some other Peter Turner ideas, and you can absolutely do that. But what isolation is giving you is a bunch of different techniques in the form of a thought of card trick. Really, it's a lot more than a thought of card trick. If you can kind of push past those boundaries and see the techniques for what they are, you'll quickly find that you'll be able to think of other ways you can use these techniques that are taught in the book. So I don't want to just ramble on too long. I just want to say Michael Murray is a genius. What he's come up with, he's put a lot of work into this. It is very evident. It's evident in the book. The book is beautifully written. He's done a great job of explaining everything. But then he's also added all of these performance videos on his website. And then he's also added all these ideas and updates on the Facebook page. And it's really just becoming a monster. And I know it's just going to continue to grow the more that people work it and play with it and use it. I've been loving it. I've been having great success with it. I bounce back and forth between the systems I use. Once you kind of understand it all, it's not like, oh, I don't know if I remember how to do that, because I totally understand the why behind the tricks. I will do the streamline sometimes, and then I'll do the master system sometimes, and then I'll do the hybrid sometimes. I'll do the palm reading a lot. I like the palm reading, but it really allows you the freedom to sort of jump around. So you get a whole bunch of techniques that you can use for learning a thought of card. I cannot give it my a recommendation any higher than get it right now. You need to have this in your library. It's going to become a classic, and if it doesn't, something is wrong, because this is one of the best books on mentalism that I've seen in a very long time. Even though it's like an in-depth study of one subject, a thought of card revelation. But it's the cleanest thought of card revelation you will ever see, and I will stand by that. So go pick up Isolation right now. Totally propless way to know the thought of card that someone just has in their head. Go pick it up right now. Oh, and by the way, it's so cheap. It's so cheap for what you get. This should be hundreds of dollars, and it's not. So go look at Michael Murray's website, and you can pick this up, mindfx.com. That's mindfx, the 2 letters, fx.com, and you'll be able to get this wonderful book, Isolation by Michael Murray. Don't waste any more time. I'm not going to waste any more of yours. I'm going to stop the video now so that you have time to go and purchase Isolation by Michael Murray.